Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. It's a group of plants that we very rarely look at, although I mention them quite often, and this is Derek's plants. Now I've got to water them now, so I thought they're all individually out on the table, so we just have a closer look at them and a chat about them. So we haven't done this for some time. Now I forget how many I started with, I think it was 16. Having just thrown one away, I'm now down to 8. They were in a very, very poor state when I got them, which is a while ago now. They've taken an awful long time to get to the place where they are now. Derek was the chairman, was he? Yeah, of the Bournemouth Orchid Society that I used to belong to, and had been for about 40 years or something or other. He became very ill, some sort of liver cancer or something I think it was, and in the middle of moving house and everything, and basically his orchids ended up in a really bad state. Where he chose to live was a long way from anyone in the society, but one of the joint members, literally a friend from Wessex Orchid Society, lives close enough to be able to go down there once a week and throw water on everything, and that's as much care as they got. When he finally died, his wishes were that all of his plants went to members of the Orchid Society. So there was a sort of orderly procession of people, going and helping themselves to what they wanted. Unfortunately, despite being requesting to go and take some plants at the front of the queue, I ended up at the back of the queue. I've not really forgiven them for that, because that must have been deliberate. The email that came round to actually say that the plants were going to be available, please show your interest, I replied within 5 minutes. Literally, I just happened to see the email come in. Nonetheless, we've got these left, so we'll have a look at them. Many of them are unidentified. They have no tags. They never have had. I just know that they are some form of Oncidium type. They all are, basically. Right, so I'll drop the camera down and we'll have a look at each one as I sort of pass it by to water. Now this one has grown a nice new growth and has produced quite a few roots in the pot. So this one's now safe. This is fine, and it will grow on. And this is an Oncidium species, Laeve, L-A-E-V-E. And it's recovered, basically. It has made it. So this one will be fine. Just chuck some water on it. Just getting a flush today. Here's a theory for you. I've come across it in several places and heard several people mention it, including a top hybridizer and grower, which we all know quite well. If a plant is recovering and hasn't got a very good root system, to encourage roots to grow, don't feed it. Because if you feed it, it will be content with the roots it's got and will be slow to grow new ones. If, however, it has no access to nutrients, it will head off and search for some, and in doing so produce new roots. I can't prove that one way or the other, but it actually sounds reasonable. But I have no way of backing that up. So you believe that or not as you see fit. But it does sort of make sense that they would go searching for food. Right, now this one is growing roots. It has some roots. It has a nice new growth. Has it got a name? Yes. It's Oncidium Emrys Jones. This is the one. There's no evidence of this plant existing on the internet. Google cannot find any reference to it whatsoever. But Anyway, it's grown a new growth, it's still pushing out some roots, and it has reasonable roots in the pot, so it'll be okay. Obviously this is the size the bulbs can get to, so this one's got some growing to do, but it's doing it basically. It'll be okay. In fact, quite honestly, most of the ones that are left now, those that haven't died, are going to be okay. You know, what's left I think is just going to be fine. This one isn't doing very well. Whoops. Steady. It's the trouble when they've got such tiny little pots, there's no weight there to hold them if they get knocked. So this one has only one growth, relatively new. It's produced its bulb. It has got some roots, but very few. And all the other bulbs are leafless. Now this is an Oda, Cooksonia. So yeah, don't know what to make of that one really. I wouldn't say it's doing well, but you know, maybe it's just a weak grower generally speaking. Anyway, it's grown a new growth. It's dropped all the leaves apart from that new growth, and there's no sign of any more new growths coming yet. Now this is one of the ones with no tag at all. This has got quite a few roots in the pot, and it has a new growth pushing on, relatively recent. Previous new growth matured a bulb okay, but apart from that, you know, the rest of the plant's not doing very well. This new growth over here rotted, so it's now having a second go, shall we say. So, but quite a few roots on that one, so that'll be fine. Providing that new growth doesn't rot, then it should progress okay. Now some of these are Odontoglossum types, or have Odontoglossum or Cochleoda mixed in with them, so they would be cooler growers. But as they haven't got tags, it's difficult to say. Now this one's got a clothes peg on it to stop it falling over. Nice strong new growth on this one. Previous growth matured a bulb okay. It's got leaves on older bulbs, two older bulbs, both with leaves on, and new roots coming from the new growth plus existing roots. That one will be fine, whatever it is, no tag. But whatever it is, it's growing fine. A lot of these plants were minute when I got them. It looks like a sea of really young new plants, but they were just incredibly in a really poor state. It sort of shrunk down to next to nothing. Right, this one is not doing very well. This is, it says it's Oncidium ornithorhynchum. If it is, it's Sotoanum, I suspect. I doubt if it's the original. Whatever it is, it's doing very poorly. It does have some roots, and it did mature its latest growth, but it's not doing very well at all. Which almost implies it could be the real thing, but I doubt it very much. The actual real thing is very, very hard to come by because of that misnaming saga that's gone on for somewhere up near 100 years, I believe, where it was misnamed, it was described incorrectly, and it's only in recent years, literally in the last 20-25 years, that they've discovered that the plant that was being described, which was always assumed to be the pink Oncidium with the fragrance, was in actual fact a yellow Oncidium, and had been misdescribed all the time. So the name stuck with the yellow one. The problem was, I think it was described with a black and white drawing, which doesn't help much, does it? It's nearly as bad as being colourblind. But anyway, so the pink one that had been misnamed all through those years had to be given a new name, and that became Sotoanum. Now this one has no tag, but I, from experience, can almost safely and confidently say that that is an odontoglossum of some sort because of the coloration of the bulb. That's a trait that a lot of the odontoglossums have got. The bulb gets deep purplish red spots and coloration on it. That's a trait. Not all of them. Anyway, that one's got quite good roots, and this is the latest bulb that's grown since I got it. It's a nice mature bulb, bigger than anything else on the plant, so this one's doing fine. But we don't know what it is because it's got no tag. The chances are, even if I get these to bloom one day, if they're strong enough, trying to match up the blooms to a name might be quite difficult, especially if they're hybrids, because some of these hybrids could be very old and therefore not very well documented. Now this, I believe, is Sotoanum, and it's more of a hint. I don't know why. But it's sort of growing okay. It's got a pot full of roots. It's grown several new growths. The latest one coming out here. It's doing okay, whatever it is. Until it blooms, we're just not going to know. So those are they. They live on a quite bright shelf. Not a bright shelf, quite bright. It's one shelf down, but it's up towards the door end of the grow room. It lives under the shelf that's absolutely crammed with plants, so it does get some reasonable shading from those plants above. It's on the same shelf as Dendrobium hibiki, or they are, not it. But they're up the door end of the grow room, but not on a top shelf. And what I've got left in the main is at least still with us and looks like it's going to survive. As I said, I've just thrown one away. As I took them off the shelf, the latest tiny little growth had just shriveled and looked as though it was rotting. So I've been hanging around with these for long enough now. I'm looking to, were all repotted at the same time. They're just in bark and charcoal with some, I can't remember what else I put in there. Perlite? Possibly. But they're all in the same media, they all went in the same stuff, they all got done at the same time, and I think we might be coming round to repotting them all again, or at least some of them, because they're now in pots that are very, very small, and they're starting to become restrictive. And in addition to that, although this is not got any moss in it at all, this media is now starting to get a bit old and stale, and I don't want to jeopardise the plant's recovery by having their roots in not, very good media. So to repot these in the state they're in, I would literally lift them out the pot and shake them in water, and whatever media comes off, and what doesn't stays, and then just plonk them down and put some fresh media in and around. So I wouldn't try and untangle the roots, I wouldn't try and get every bit of old media off. I'd treat them with kid gloves and just literally get them into mainly fresh media and possibly go up a pot size. These pots are difficult to come by, some of these. It's the medium sized ones. These little ones you can get. You can get them. It's the next ones up you can't get. This next size up, almost impossible to get hold of in clear pots. You can get them in black. Anyway, so those are Derek's plants, and for those new to the channel, that was the story of how I came by them. And like I said, if I'd been nearer the front of the queue, then I might have got some better plants, but I ended up with the dregs. I ended up with what nobody else wanted, effectively. What was the only good plant, which it's been separated out because it's a totally different thing, but I'll get it down to show the difference. When I walked into the greenhouse where the plants were, this was on the side of the table. And although I didn't know what it was, I picked it straight up and put it to one side and said, I'll have that. Because I'd already scanned round the greenhouse and saw that there was next to nothing else that I wanted. And I had to go round and just look at the best of the bad lot. But this radiata was one of Derek's. This has grown on well, got 2 spikes on it now, be in bloom again soon. 2 nice strong new growths pushing on, and pushing out roots. So I think it's got a pretty good root system, this as well. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do nicely. And there's root tips growing all over the place, new ones coming out of the new growths. Nice healthy plant. So that's what a lot of his plants would have been like, I suspect, but I didn't get a look in. As I said, I was at the back of the queue, much to my annoyance. Right, so there we go, that's today's video. Tomorrow I will probably deal with the new Kikis from Lynn. I still haven't made my mind up. You'll have to wait for tomorrow's video to see what I finally decide, but I looked on the internet for pictures of the plant. Now obviously lots of pictures are just of the blooms, but in amongst them, you know, you do a Google search on the plant name, click on images and you just get pictures. But in amongst them were pictures of plants with blooms on, and some in situ. And I would say 2/3, if not 3/4 of the plants that you could see the plant were upright. Now most of those were in pots, some of them were mounted, but they were growing upright. There were very, very few that had been mounted, arching out or pendulous, which implies to me perhaps it needs to go in a pot. In which case it'll have to have a funny bit of staking going on, you know me. Anyway, that's what I will probably be up to tomorrow. We'll be back to needing to do some watering tomorrow, I suspect. Although it rained nearly all day yesterday, it rained for most of this morning, and it's past lunchtime now, into the afternoon. It's stopped raining, but it's still dull and it's still not warm. I saw Ed was complaining about the temperatures. Yeah, it's affecting all of us, but ridiculous, isn't it? In a couple of days' time they expect us to be up to 27, 28 degrees. You know, when we're having trouble getting above 20 at the moment. It's just so variable. Anyway, it looks like it might not be the best of weathers to go to Burnham's on Saturday, but whatever the weather is, I'll be going. Right, so that'll do for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for dropping by. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, please do so. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.